Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, entertainment, sports, and just a plethora of things that may come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a discussion. I want to thank all of you guys across New Tech as well as here on YouTube for your guys' continued support.
We start things off from WYFF, Greenville, South Carolina, Channel 4. Trump accused of asking staffer to delete camera footage in Florida classified documents case. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing says democracy like Democrat democracy, which is interpreted as being Democrat authoritative democracy, because why allow democracy to actually take place? Why allow people to make up their own minds on who the candidate would be best suited to run the country when you can just pursue your political enemies and not provide solutions and answers or reasons why people should vote for you? Former President Donald Trump faces new charges Thursday in a case accusing him of illegally possessing classified documents, with prosecutors alleging that he asked a staffer to delete camera footage at his Florida estate in an effort to obstruct a federal investigation into the record. And I gotta love how the media likes to take this information and hype it up, jack it up to 11, exaggerate, sensationalize, instead of waiting for the actual tangible information that's out there relating to it through or via the Department of Justice. The indictment includes new counts of obstruction and willful retention of national defense information, adding fresh detail to an indictment issued last month against Trump and a close aide. The Florida charges came as a surprise at a time of escalating anticipation of a possible additional indictment in Washington over his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. It's always going to go back to January 6th. He was not trying to overturn the election. He was more focused on investigating and allowing the process to take place and then following procedures that he is allowed to do so as the president or any president would do. The latest allegations also make clear the vast and still not fully known scope of legal exposure faced by Trump as he seeks to reclaim the White House in 2024 while fending off criminal cases in multiple cities, which of course the establishment wants to do. That is the strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, you would think that the Democrats would just come out and tell people what they have to offer them for 2024 with whatever candidate they're going to go with. I mean, maybe it'll be Joe Biden. I can't imagine why the establishment would want to shift gears, but you never know what the establishment is going to do. But let me make it clear again. Let's revisit some things here, because it's important that everyone who may be watching this for the very first time understand what's actually happening. That is that we have a weaponized Department of Justice. We have a weaponized, essentially we have an establishment appointed surrogate president at this point. It should be becoming much clearer to everyone what's actually happening, because as we go back to 2021, Senate acquits Trump for inciting Capitol riot, even as bipartisan majority votes to convict. So what this means in plain, simple language is that they acquitted Trump of inciting the Capitol riot, but they're not going to stop accusing him of having incited the riot or giving people the perception that he did incite the riot, although they have nothing to really go on. You know, it's almost anecdotal here. And I want to point out, and let's go back what I mean by the anecdotal part, or just the opinions or thoughts or interpretations of even language and semantics. We go back to the Twitter files. If you guys haven't watched any of the videos on the Twitter files, by all means, go up there in the search and look up Twitter files, because I covered various leaks of this where it just absolutely details the bias towards President Trump and just the way even government was handling social media and going in and censoring people. So, from Barry Weiss, less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijaya Gadde, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, asked whether it could in fact be coded incitement to further violence. So there was no real evidence that President Trump had done anything to incite what happened in January 6th. But you see here, she has to use very weasel word language to suggest that, well, maybe it's coded. Maybe there's some underlying thing that's going on here. Maybe there's some dog whistle that he's using, some language, something that he's doing that actually could be interpreted as inciting. And it's basically what we have here. The same thing here. Senate acquits Trump for inciting Capitol riot, even as bipartisan majority votes to convict. So it's like they're not satisfied with President Trump being not guilty. All right? They have to have something on him. This is where individuals, it should be obvious to people where there's a bias in people's mindset, where there's an intentional hatred towards the man, so much so that they're willing to go so far as Vijaya Gotti to suggest that maybe whatever he's doing is coded in some way. Isn't that really the definition of a conspiracy? And here's what Donald Trump said today, as of this recording on Thursday, July the 27th. My attorneys had a productive meeting with the Department of Justice this morning, explaining in detail that I did nothing wrong, was advised by many lawyers, and that an indictment of me would only further destroy our country. No indication of notice was given during the meeting. Do not trust the fake news on anything. So as we just kind of read that article, you can kind of see where the media is going with this, because it's kind of breaking now in the evening. It's now 11:11 Eastern Daylight Time here as I'm recording this, and so this was kind of just coming out. And also, importantly enough, I thought it was interesting that this came out just a few minutes ago, actually, not too long ago either, from Donald Trump. Whatever happened to the crooked Joe Biden documents case? He had 20 times more boxes than I did, and he wasn't covered by the Presidential Record Act. That's right, because he was vice president. I was. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, how they can pick and choose how they want to enforce these things. And this is the concern. This is what we've always talked about here on my channel when it comes to hate speech. You know, who's going to regulate it? Who are the arbiters going to be? I mean, you get somebody who disagrees with each other, and they're going to immediately say, oh, that's hate speech, or I'm offended by what they're saying. They must be shut down. They must be censored. I mean, look at what happens every single day just on the internet. Imagine if there was somehow, some way someone created this hate speech law. It would just be absolutely impossible to enforce. It's too nebulous. When it first came out that Biden had all these docs, many classified, almost everyone, including those on the left, said, there goes the case against Trump. So this was kind of an interesting little play here, because the strategy of government and the establishment can be a very peculiar, almost naive and absurd one. Very similar to what we saw this week with Hunter Biden, where there was an attempt by his counsel to kind of weasel things into him getting out of many of the charges that he was accused of by using backdoor deals and stuff. And the judge was like, no, that's not going to happen. And so things started falling apart for them because they have accumulated so much power and so much influence. They think that they can manipulate our laws or use the laws to their particular advantage and apply them in other ways to other people. But I'm hoping that everyone is seeing this, particularly those people who are going to be voting in 2024. So we go back to what Trump was saying here. But they waited and waited, got failed prosecutor deranged Jack Smith and struck, but did almost nothing on the really bad Biden document case, many stored in Chinatown. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think this illustrates a lot of what the media says versus what Trump says versus the reality versus what the Department of Justice is saying, and what eventually all comes out in the end. But of course, a lot of what President Trump says is immediately discarded as just being crazy old Donald Trump and his desire to remain in power, which is really them saying, we want to stay really in power because, of course, the establishment doesn't want Donald Trump back there keeping them under control and allowing him to prosper the country and prosper Americans, because the establishment has got to get theirs first before they're going to start even beginning to think about whether or not the average American or the country should benefit in any kind of a way. It's absolutely amazing. And so it's extraordinary that this news is just now coming out on a Thursday evening, because many people waited throughout the day to kind of see what was going to actually happen. But I'm not sure what this is going to amount to, because this was 8 hours ago when Donald Trump attorneys spoke there to the Department of Justice, because ultimately it's going to be what they decide. And a lot of it is just procedural. And an indictment does not mean guilt. It's just a process or a procedure that they can use to be able to continue this persecution of Donald Trump, which is absolutely absurd. I don't think anything is really going to amount from it any more than I'm going to see. Well, it depends on how far they want to go with it, because what's going to happen with Hunter Biden with just the way the judge completely shut down his prosecuting team, and of course the FTX scammer was just released. The second highest donor to the Democratic Party was just released after scamming millions of people or thousands of people out of millions of dollars. It's absolutely extraordinary. You can watch my short on that. I will be releasing that on Friday as well. But nonetheless, guys, that's what I had for you this Friday.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. I want to thank all of you guys for the likes, the shares, and the comments. That includes, of course, all the people on New Tech, as well as here on YouTube, and of course below this video. For all of you guys that have Prime or order regularly from Amazon, you can use some of my links down there below. Kind of helps out the channel a little bit, and it's greatly appreciated, particularly during these particular times. But nonetheless, guys, that's what I have for you this Friday. And appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon. You guys can click on that to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. And I'll see all you guys right there behind the Galaxy phone next Friday.